Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to some sort of episode of GeekVerse, but most importantly, the wrap up of the E3 coverage. I am the Clown Prince podcast, Trash Snail, and I'm joined by
the Adam Harcaster Dylan.
And I am the Pokemon trainer Fanboy Clay.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So this will be a pretty quick plug as far as what we've done the past week is a bunch of E3 stuff. So go back. We did Summer Games Fest, Ubisoft, Square Enix, Xbox, and now this is closing out the weekend. So you go back. I think it's like close to 5 to 4 hours of coverage there. So it's lots of good conversations. Everything that was, I'd say, the biggest stuff other than what we're going to talk about tonight was probably covered in those. So go give those a like. Go over to the description down below. You got our video and audio feeds. And if you really like what we do, leave a Apple review, written one, because those are the ones that help. And then if you really like us, head over to Patreon, ad-free, exclusive early episodes, the whole shebang. Lots of good stuff there. So just head down in the description below. It has literally everything we do and where to find us. So today we have the Nintendo conference, but what we're going to do is, Dylan, you got some games to shout. And same thing, Clay, if you have any games to shout that weren't a part of Nintendo, go ahead. But we're going to talk about just some other stuff that happened because we didn't do anything Monday because Monday didn't end up being anything big. So we're going to talk about just a few games here, and then after we're going to get into Nintendo like we did the other ones, brick by brick. So, Dylan, what intrigued you over these past few days that you hadn't talked about yet? It has to be Guardians, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I can't remember exactly where these games were shown. Like, I think one or two of them was at the PC gaming thing. One or two of them was at the indie showcase. Another one or two were shown today at various things. So I'm just going to shout these out quick and definitely give them a YouTube at some point. People check these out. They're kind of like, they all ended up being like turn-based grid strategy games. That seems to be like the thing of E3 this year, especially like Advance Wars 2 and whatnot. Like, it's just a lot of those kinds of games apparently in the works. The main one is this game called Dark Deity, which is just essentially a ripoff of Fire Emblem Sacred Stones, which is my favorite Fire Emblem game, and that was like 2006 or 7 that game came out, and they've definitely moved away from that style of Fire Emblem game. And so this game, it just seems like people who love that game very much made just like the spiritual successor to it. So it looks really cool, and it shadow dropped today. It just like came out today, so I picked it up on Steam. I haven't actually played it yet because it's still downloading, but Dark Deity is the name of that one. Another strategy game called War Tales, which I mean is the most generic name of all time, but it's cool. Like the strategy element looks like something we've seen before, but the exploration looks interesting. So that one's called War Tales. This game called Lakeburg Legacies looks really fun. It's kind of like a
Lakeburg Legacies.
Yeah, Lakeburg Legacies. It's kind of like a kingdom builder, but it seems like it's all about like your role is like matchmaking people and like making the lineage and like the family trees of people. So it's almost like a dating sim, but it's got like a really funny look to it. And you're like
doing the meme.
Yeah, you're like putting people in relationships. I don't really get how it works, but it looks really interesting. Just a very kind of goofy game in that setting. So check that one out. Songs of Conquest is kind of a mashup of like a million things. Looks like Heroes of Might and Magic, but with grid-based turn strategy, empire building sim kind of game. And then the last one I wanted to shout out was Mecha Jammer, which is another turn-based RPG, but it's kind of got a cyberpunk Blade Runner sort of aesthetic, and it looks really cool. Also, that setting for some reason is just like the thing of E3. Yeah. I feel like there was at least 20 games that had that look, but this one stood out of the pack from the rest of those to me. Obviously, Replaced also looks great, but Mecha Jammer was that last one. So definitely give those a YouTube and check them out. I mean, mostly strategy RPG. So if that's your genre, that's probably some more games to check out.
I had to say that I forgot because people have been bringing this up, and I just thought the game had maybe come out and I forgot about it. I remember liking it then too, was when we were talking about Replaced, and last night that game. Did you see that kind of people? The developers came back like, we're still working on it. It's still a thing, but I had thought it
looks the exact same. I had never heard of it until like people were mentioning that it looked like just the same thing.
So that's gonna be interesting if Replace finds its way out before Last Night does. But I guess that I have to go back and watch that Last Night trailer because I think I remember Replace. It looked like a little almost a little more like current, but I haven't seen Last Night in so long. I remember really liking it when it happened. I remember I liked it, and I don't know if you remember this. That was the same weekend where like some like bad tweets came out from the developers, and he started
Ooh,
apologizing on stage, and we were
weird.
like, oh, what's going on here? And it was yeah, not the greatest situation, but
Yeah, somehow I don't remember that game at all. Like, do you remember what
yeah.
conference it was at? Because it's like completely escaped my mind.
I feel like it was either Xbox or Bethesda, and I don't know why it would be at Bethesda, but I feel like it was one of those two. But I'll have to look back. I
Must
think
have
it's
been
in one of the
Microsoft. Yeah.
bloopers of our E3 one, so it's somewhere in there. So
Yeah.
yeah, so check those out. Yeah, I think I'd heard of the last one you mentioned, but I haven't seen those ones. Yeah, because that's what happens always during E3 when the days where I'm working and that stuff's going on. There's just so much stuff, and then you got the devs sitting down talking about stuff and everything like that, and you got Take-Two making people mad and everything. So how do you think I guess like we're gonna talk about Nintendo, but how do you think E3 was overall? Obviously last year wasn't a thing and we're back now. How do you think it compares to of years past?
Clay, do you want to go ahead? I was kind of talking for a bit there.
Yeah. I think that I think I said this during the Square Enix cast that we did, but I think it's a nice small little like dip your toes in the water type. Like, hey, this is I think that like next year, hopefully, crossing our fingers that nothing dramatic happens to the world, but who knows these days, that it will be a little bit more grander, that it will be in person, that there will be a little bit more hype. There's so many people that are like, oh, E3 is dead, just burn it all, whatever. And I think people are a little more dramatic, more so because the game that they want didn't show up. I'm talking to you, Pokemon. But I think it will be better next year in the years following, of course. I think this was okay. I think that it was very successful in what they were trying to do, with everything being remote and or secluded from more than 3 people on stage and stuff like that. So I think overall it did really, really good.
Yeah, I think if we look at it like pound for pound, like Ubisoft and Square Enix were pretty much on par with where they usually are. Maybe Square Enix was a bit worse, but if you're really into Final Fantasy, that was probably the best conference ever. Microsoft and Bethesda, rather than having like 2 mediocre to good like shows, they just had like 1 mega amazing show. Nintendo's was maybe a bit lesser than other directs, but still like pretty solid. I think we're definitely missing Sony, and that's maybe the one thing is like,
Yeah.
This has been like various days of E3 stuff, and there's not one new PlayStation game on my radar. Obviously, I'm still on PlayStation 4, but still, like, there's just nothing new on my radar, so that's kind of disappointing. But then we also kind of got the boost of Summer Game Fest, and that opening night live was actually a really great show, and somehow ended up being like one of the very best. So I think it was similar, maybe like, I don't know, maybe it was a little bit lesser quality just overall, but for me personally, as someone who just bought that Series X a month ago, I couldn't be happier with everything that went on this weekend. And I was a bit, maybe a bit deflated today, but I still think it was a really fun few days of E3.
Yeah, I think Sony being not there, it definitely feels like a hole. Because I remember when we used to do E3, it'd be Saturday was always like just EA, Ubisoft by themselves. Like they're always just like, okay. And then usually we record this stuff, and then Sunday was like a bunch of them. And I felt it was weird because there was Square and then Xbox, and we did it like Sunday morning, afternoon. And then when we got to nighttime, it was just like there was just nothing. So not saying that has to be on Sony. I do think it's going to be interesting what they do next, because I feel like lots of people are talking about everybody else, but at the same time, that's kind of a Sony trait, as they like to have the spotlight now. So I think they got to have some good stuff coming up. Hopefully, I would imagine, hopefully Horizon actually makes its date, but I think it's tough. I think it was like a decent E3, but I don't think there's. I think unfortunately for them, and maybe it's just like it's good for Keeley, but like he got the most memorable thing of the week, and that was Elden Ring, and that's come from someone that's not even that big into it. But like when you always think back to this weekend, that's why I do want him to separate, because I think people are gonna mix it in together. Like I said, I showed you guys some articles of some people reporting some stuff from Summer Games Fest saying, "Oh, it's E3," but it's like, no, that's So I think in the future he'll be smart to do that. But I think if you were to take Summer Games Fest out of it, I would be a little bit more disappointed. So if it's just E3, I think it's tough because like there's like, yeah, people can work from home and stuff, but there's still lots of development issues and lots of delays. So I think it was a solid E3. I think next year is for me more because I never said E3 was dead, but I don't think it was dead in the fact of like, oh, this quality sucks, but in the fact of like, they have new runners, which is good, but I just don't know. I was always wondering what these companies are going to do. Like, would Nintendo go? Would X? And like, luckily, Nintendo did go. And I guess I don't know why they wouldn't now if they've already done this. But I think next year will be a bigger test for me to see like if this is a big thing. But at the end of the day, I think it was if we had no COVID regular world, I think I actually would have thought it was a pretty disappointing or like lackluster E3. But the fact of like we haven't had anything in this like a while, it's like I guess I'm like even like Square Enix and Ubi both gave like a 3.5 rating. Like I was pretty nice on them. I think it's just because it's nice to have that again. I do wonder what it's gonna be like if we go back to people, because I honestly do think other than hearing the crowd cheering and those hype moments, I think the presentations are better digital because there's
I agree with that.
like
100%.
even I guess that's why I didn't hate Square Enix a lot like other people did, because like it was a clean 45 minutes in and out. Like it didn't take that long. We're on stage, that'd probably at least be an hour and 15 if they got to walk people in, walk people out. So like the direct is good that way. Xbox killed it with theirs, so it'll be interesting. So next year I expect a little bit more, and I hope it brings it. And I think they do got to do that because I think Keighley, Game Awards have been back and forth to being great or not great, but I think he's definitely building momentum. And the good thing about that is it's much like when PlayStation had Sean Layden. It's always good to have like the one figurehead, and everyone knows like, oh, Keighley's E3's thing, where you always know Keighley, at least the personality is going to be there. Where with E3, Nintendo might say, we're not going to be there next year. Like you don't know for sure. And that's why luckily they're not doing that. But when people are dropping the old E3, people are like, oh, we're going to do like celebrity basketball games at E3. And it was like, this isn't E3. And that was my worry. So I hope we don't get to a point where it becomes like a special attraction. I think they just got to find fun things to do. So I think it was a good step in the right direction, but I want to see next year. But I want to stick around because these weekends are fun. Seeing people talk about a bunch of demos, games like the Replace probably wouldn't be on my radar if I didn't watch an Xbox conference. So I still want this to stick around. So
yeah, I think that I'm just excited for next year to be in the room with you guys again, or I don't know, Clay. You should fly down to Kelowna.
Fly all the way to Canada. Let's do it.
Man. That would be fun. But I mean, that's a big part I miss too. Not even just like, our streams are 2 seconds off, and that kind of fucks with things. But it's just fun to have the day, play games, play some Mario Party or Smash in between the conferences. Go get some Slurpees and pizza, and just have like a lot of fun with some friends. And didn't get to have that experience this year even. So I think even just having that element with E3 next year, figuring out the digital format or going back to its old format, I think that'll just bring the hype as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Mario Party, we had a Nintendo Direct today. They got to close off. That's very much like traditional. I feel like ever since we've been doing this, they've always gone the Monday and stuff like that. They always go Monday at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m., which I hate, but I found a way to time my lunch very early to watch and everything like that. So we had a Direct. I will say, I guess, to do the overalls, I liked it, but for some reason I felt this was a bit more clunky than they have before. I don't know if it was just my stream or what it was, but I felt the first 5 minutes like the actual interpretations were off of the guys, and I actually felt like
the audio was not great.
Yeah, so maybe that was just a thing that they had, but that's where it was that, and I just felt there was a few times where it just like it felt like someone didn't give it one more look over in the edit bay. They're just like, it's good, just get it out, people don't care, like not saying no one worked hard on, but it just like it felt a little less awkward and it felt a little less snazzle. But like I liked it, but I didn't love it. And I think it's tough because I feel like, and we'll get into, but I feel like I'm the same place that you were dealing with Last of Us, as far as you knew, like you get that it's a big Sony game, so they're going to be pumping it. And that's the thing with me with Breath of the Wild, that I get it's a big game for them, so I'm prepared for the next like year, maybe even next E3, like that's what this is, right? But I think when everybody knew that Breath of the Wild was coming, and I'm not trying to just review that segment, just the whole show, it's like when that's coming pretty much, for me, I was expecting not for it to come out this year, but at least a longer dive. So when it was like 3 minutes, and then it's like, oh, we'll have more next year. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe they still got the one more thing happening, and then it didn't. So I think it was a good show. I think they've had worse shows. Remember they had a puppet show at one point, our very first E3, that went awful, but like I think it was good. There were some fun surprises. There's games that spoke to me. I think it was good as far as the time length. Like I said, I don't think it was their smoothest one. So I was expecting them to have a bit more hype. It didn't necessarily have that, but I can, I guess, somehow break the chain and say in the 5 years we've been doing this, that for me, E3 was won by Xbox, which was, I've been waiting. And I thought Nintendo was going to have equivalent to Xbox. Even if it wasn't as long, I thought we were going to have a bit more really excitement moments. And I thought there was like, okay, just good ones. So what about you, Dylan?
Yeah, I'm split because I think overall as a direct, it was pretty solid. There's some good surprises in here. Definitely some things out of left field. And then, just some good reminders on things. And I think the pacing was really solid. I agree with what you said there, except, Breath of the Wild, man, it wasn't even 3 minutes. It was like a minute and a half. It was really, really short. But I think one of the problems perhaps with the direct for me was that some of the sizzle was taken away by the fact that some of these bigger games were shown earlier this weekend. Like if this was the direct, or this was the announcement for that Guardians game, if this was the announcement for the Rabbids game, then this direct could have like easily climbed up to like maybe even that like 4.5, 5 tier. But since those things had been shown off, it felt like, okay, well, we're seeing this again. And then there was even, of course, every Nintendo Direct is going to have, here's some games that are getting ported to the Switch that are maybe a year, 2 or 3 years old. And so when you factor that in with these reveals that we'd already seen, it just felt like a lot of it was kind of just marketing. Obviously, these directs are always marketing, but it felt like more like that than usual.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like an E3 direct to me. It felt like, hey, we're doing a random direct in April. Check it out,
Yeah. So, there's a couple amazing announcements in here, but for me personally, without getting too specific, the Smash thing was really disappointing for me. And then the other thing is like, this is kind of their slate for the rest of 2021. The only thing they didn't show here is Pokemon, which is announced to come out in November, so we know that's coming. But other than that, like I'm getting Mario Golf next week. I've been excited for that, but that might be the last Nintendo game I get this year based off this direct. And I have reasons for that. There's things I liked in this direct, but I have maybe some reasons why I wouldn't want to get them immediately. So we'll talk about those more specifics later. But that's kind of disappointing for me that there's nothing else that I'm particularly looking forward to for, after next week for really the rest of the year, because I don't really care about Skyward Sword either. That's coming out the week after, so, or 2 weeks from now, whatever it is. So I'm feeling a bit deflated, but I still think the direct just mathematically was like pretty solid. Just didn't hit me personally. Where are you at, Clay?
For me, I will go ahead and say that I agree with both of you guys. The whole thing with marketing, there are some marketing moves that they did announce here that I think are very well for the company, but not necessarily for me. And I don't know if I could do another E3 with you guys, because now I'm convinced to buy an Xbox, and now I have to get a Nintendo Switch. Like my wallet is.
You don't have a Switch.
I don't.
You're
last
one of
year
the five
during
people in the world who don't.
Well, I know during the shutdown, I was playing my little brother's Switch like all the time. And I was like, man, I'm moving and I know I can't take this. Like I was almost convinced to be like, hey, I'm just going to ask him. Like, you don't play this anyway, let's just like, I bought him the memory card for it and bought like all these digital games for him, basically. That's the one thing that I shouldn't have done. Like, I should have just taken the memory card and be like, I bought this. But I'm excited for Breath of the Wild because it's a game that I haven't played. I haven't even played the first one yet. So that one was okay. Like I said before we started recording, I was like, man, are they really going to end with Hyrule Castle? Like, this is their big thing? And Travis even said, he's like, no, I think there's something else coming afterwards. So thankfully,
I hope. If they did not have Breath of the Wild 2,
up.
they were gonna get skewered. They couldn't have survived this E3. It would have not been good.
And Dylan, I will agree with you. The Smash reveal wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be. I know Taylor did a meme in the chat earlier today, and that would have been like 10 times better, I think. But
any excuse that guy has to get a Bionicles meme out there, he'll just fucking take it.
That's the meme. I didn't see that meme. No.
But overall, I think one thing that I felt was very disappointing is probably their big like opening reveal wasn't until a couple games in. And we'll go into specifics and I'll say more on that. But that's how I felt, which I was like, they could have really wowed a lot of people with opening really, really big and then closing with Breath of the Wild. But overall, I still think it is a success. You were talking about like things weren't necessarily synced up right or whatever. The one thing that bothered me, every time they snapped, it was like delayed by like 3 seconds. It really bothered me.
That stuff bugs me so much too. But yeah, in the description, you can join the GV community Discord and see the great memes that Taylor made, the Bionicles. Taylor, I think that is Waluigi will end up in Smash before a Bionicle does. So I'm sorry to share that with you, sir.
I would be super down for that too, though. Like memes aside, I think that could be a fun character. Anyway.
Well, all I was gonna say, because I got this question before we go into the conference, Clay, is you gotta wait because there's a rumored Switch Pro. So I'd say just wait for that. Hold on.
But I've seen so many people get upset for several months that this Switch Pro that has been rumored for quite a while has not had even a lick of a leak or announcement or anything.
It's so interesting because I applaud them. I like when companies do this because they a couple days ago said this was just going to be a software conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like that for two reasons. One, either you're telling the truth and you set expectations, or you set the bar low and you get to come in and surprise people. But no one gets to be mad, in my opinion, of that because they literally said, hey, it's not going to be there. Don't worry about it. And it's so funny because Dylan, you're not on Twitter, but like, in the circle of like gaming scoopers and whatnot, so many people were putting out that they were going to announce it before E3, and then this was going to be the hype of it. And it's like, well, there's a lot of people that lost like a lot of tears this weekend because like tons of people were saying, no, it's happening for E3. And I forget name, but like some pretty credible game scoopers. And obviously things change all the time, but it is interesting that we haven't heard anything. It doesn't look like it's going to be, because I guess actually I'm wrong. I've doubted Nintendo so many times because literally they could in 2 weeks announce this and say it's coming in the fall, but it still feels weird that why wouldn't you at least have it on through E3 just to get a little bit extra coverage, just because especially you're on the Monday, you're closing out the week, like you're going to get talked about the most. People are excited for this thing. So I was surprised that we didn't hear it at all like these past 7 days. And I don't know, Dylan, do you think it's still this year, or do you think it's one of these things where sometimes we hear, remember how long we've been hearing about this Xbox Series X dongle, and that was supposed to come out soon? We still hear about it all the time. It's like, well, we've never seen it, so does it exist? I don't know. Is this a 2021 product?
At this rate, no, because I don't know. I think they want some piece of software alongside. Like that's something Nintendo always does, is they'll always have some release or some roster of games that come out like on a console's launch, and maybe it's a bit different if they're doing a 0.5, which they don't really do, so it's kind of a different precedent because we haven't really seen, I don't like, other than the handheld consoles like the DS
just the handhelds, I think.
We've never actually seen that as far as I know, so maybe it's something different. But I feel like if it is, I mean, I don't know, Breath of the Wild's potentially so far out now that I don't know if they're going to wait until that to line it up, because that just might be so long. But I don't know. I guess with the games they announced here, like, I don't know if I see it like, oh yeah, WarioWare is going to be your game that blows away the graphics, and you need that Switch Pro. So I don't know. I think they would have announced it this weekend, where a bunch of games were going to be coming out this fall, and a bunch of third parties are going to be releasing games on it, like more powerful games, like the new Call of Duty can run on the new Switch Pro. That's something you'd want to get out ahead of E3, and that way it can be announced somewhere, I think. So I mean, I don't know. The Scoopers have been saying it was going to be announced last week, the week before, for the last months, years. So I don't know. If I had to guess based on what I see, I would say it's probably not this year.
Yeah.
But Nintendo is wild and they can do whatever they want.
I agree with you, and I know we're jumping at the end a little bit about the Breath of the Wild thing, because I just feel like that's the natural, here you go. But the way, to me, just the way that they were talking about Breath of the Wild did not make me feel like it was because I didn't think it was this year. Lost Bill did. I didn't think it was this year. And I thought, okay, they're going to go with what they did last time as like that February, January, March slot. But the fact that they're just still like, oh, I can't remember the exact wording he used, but he
Yeah.
just like, we're delicately like
He
still
said
developing.
we're working hard on it, so please, like something like please be patient. And I'm like, you're talking to a whole bunch of Nintendo gamers here,
Yeah,
like,
and
The
and just gamers in
2022 felt
general.
soft. Like it didn't sound supremely confident in even
Yeah.
that year. Not
Yeah.
even that month, but that year.
Yeah.
The one thing that I don't think Square Enix, Xbox, or Ubisoft had, Nintendo had the COVID thing in the very beginning of this, was basically said, hey, due to COVID, all these announcement dates are subject to change, which
Yeah.
doesn't give much confidence to anything that they put out.
They've
But
had that on their every direct for the last year. They just kind of, even if it's like a small Animal Crossing direct that's like just for that one game, they like just slap that on there anyway.
just in case.
They
I
should
feel like
video
they're
game
gonna
people.
keep it for years at this point. Like
Developers should just do that from now on. Like, not blame COVID, but just like all these dates may be subject to change. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see when it comes out. But I don't think it's Q1. I'm just gonna say that. I really don't. And that's the tough thing of like, well, do you wait till that's ready, or is there something else to launch with? And I think you're right. Like,
yeah.
golf isn't the one. Like, golf's like a week away, but like, I don't think golf is the same stats as Mario Kart, because the same way I don't think there's any sports game that's the same stats as Mario Kart. Party, no, not at all. That's just like
You should have announced it now with Pokemon, because that's an open world.
Yes and no, but
it would have been great.
as you've seen with this direct, like Pokemon and Nintendo are very much like Spider-Man and the MCU. They are together and they're making money, but like they're still on their own kind of separate paths. And that's the thing. Like Nintendo, they've done this. I think, Dylan, like how many E3s have we done this? And then like 3 weeks later, we'll get like a separate Pokemon direct just all by themselves.
Well,
So
that's the one thing Nintendo loves to do, is they don't just have like, hey, we're gonna have a direct for Q1, direct for Q2, whatever. It is like, hey, we're gonna have a direct in 3 weeks. Hey, in another month we'll have a direct also. Hey, in 2 weeks we'll have another one. It's all the time, I feel like.
Oh, they definitely do, but I just feel like with the console, they want one of those homegrown, the classics to launch with. I was getting really hyped about some of these rumors of a Donkey Kong game. That's nowhere in sight now, but that's my hope is next year they're going to really pop off, because like they've all had their times. I feel like Xbox had a great show. I don't think it was their pop off. I still think they have a year where it's Starfield, Fable. Like I think they're going to have a year like Sony did soon. Sony had that 2016 one, which was still the greatest conference of all time. And then in 2019, Nintendo just popped off like Luigi's Mansion, like all this stuff. So I think Nintendo has one of those lining up, but it's a down period. But at the time, like you can go back to I can't remember, it popped up on my Facebook it's not too long ago, but it's like you can go back in time. Like I doubted the Switch since day one, and that thing is selling like hotcakes. That thing is going to be one of the most, it's already the most successful consoles of all time, but like I'm shocked when I see the numbers of how well the Switch is selling, and like kudos to them, because I didn't think it was going to work out, not because I didn't like the system. It was just, I thought they're the marketing, everything, but here they are. So it's like they have all the opportunity to coast. Like they don't really have, like they're not in the mode where I feel like Xbox is right now, where they're trying to win people over. Like PlayStation's selling well, Switch is selling well. Xbox wants to have Games Pass, but they've still said they want to do consoles. Their consoles are a little bit lighter, so I think they're in that not do or die, but they want to really hump up the heat. So we'll take our first ad break, and then let's start breaking down this conference one by one, because I'm very excited to talk about Smash right now. So we'll be right back after this ad break. And we're back. So we had our first thing with Smash, a big reveal. We got 2 fighters left. I'm going to go first because I feel these two might be a little bit more negative. I do not care about Tekken. I don't really care about fighting games or whatnot. I will say this because I said this to Dylan already. I am like disappointed by the fighter, but that's just because I've been disappointed by the majority of these new fighters. I guess it's in a weird place where I know some people want it to be like the whole like Avengers Endgame of gaming. I honestly still just wish it was majority just a Nintendo world type of gaming, like all these characters in there. I don't know how I feel, but I feel at least Tekken, I think, and many people have said that they haven't been the biggest fan of this reveal. I do get that, but I also get that Tekken at least is a popular, one of those been around for a long time fighting franchises. So I could see why Nintendo did that. If they're trying to make this ultimate gaming fighting roster, I 100% think the choice not good, but it makes sense with what they've done in the past. I'm waiting for the Illumination movie. I still think Nintendo should just try to make movies themselves. I loved the reveal, like the actual video reveal of it was great. Like that moment with Kirby throwing him off the cliff, and then I was like, oh, he has to fly up, and he did. So I think the reveal was good, the pacing was good, the choice was meh, but again, I've kind of felt that way the whole time. But we only got one left. So Dylan, how did you feel about this choice?
Yeah, it's a major bummer for me. I think for me it's like how everyone's complained for years about Fire Emblem's representation in Smash and how it's just the same character over and over again, just these sword anime characters. And I agree with that. As a Fire Emblem fan, there's so much more in that well, and they just for some reason always pick the same fucking thing. So I get that. But to me, these kind of traditional fighting game characters are starting to feel like that. Like to me, this guy just looks the exact same as Ryu.
Yeah,
looks the exact same as Ken. I think Terry was kind of the interesting one, even if he was from like the most obscure fighting game franchise. But I feel like it's just becoming a bit too much for me. Like Ken was a new character added to Smash Ultimate, and then in the first DLC pass we had Terry. Now we have this guy, and Kazuya is his name.
Kazuya.
Kazuya, I think. I think it's Kazuya. I tried to like write it down and enunciate it because
that's why I kept saying the guy from Tekken.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's fair in terms of legacy. Tekken's a big fighting game and all that. It's just a very boring pick for me. He looks just kind of the same. I don't and you know the reason I come to Smash and it's like just why I love it so much over traditional fighters is because of the movement options in it. And I don't like that the Street Fighter, or not the Street Fighter, but just the classic fighting game characters that they've brought in all kind of have this mechanic where your character automatically turns around, and all of them are kind of really boring to like move around with. Like it's more about just little ground footsies and stuff, but it's not really about jumping and flying around. And
it looked really 2D when I was watching. It looked so 2D fighter. I kind of forgot it was Smash at some points. I was like, like when they're in the dojo training, I was like, this is not what I enjoy. I like the flips, I like all the up Bs and stuff, but it looked like Nintendo was just trying, oh, this is our 2D fighter, and it's not at Smash. So
yeah, like I think Tekken's cool enough. I guess to me, like Tekken also out of all the traditional 2D fighters is kind of like seems like the most generic. Like, and I feel like even within Tekken and other fighting games, like there's so many cool characters, like just wild designs with crazy weapons and all that, and they never pick those guys. They always pick they're like I know Kazuya is like a Japanese guy, but they're all just like generic white dudes with big muscles, and they all just punch and kick. Yeah, like it's all the same. Like Terry, at least, you know, he looked a bit different and had like some cool fire abilities and stuff. But I guess I'm a bit bored by this one, and the stage looks really boring, whereas Terry's stage was actually really cool. Hopefully Tekken has some awesome music. I mean, here's the thing, like they're doing, like Sakurai always does his like 40-minute long presentation where he goes through the whole move set and he shows off the stage, throws off the new Meat fighters, and maybe that'll get me excited, but this is genuinely the first character added that isn't going to bring me back. Every other DLC character, Sephiroth, I have no attachment to, but still it brings me back in for a couple weeks. I play the game a bunch. I do some more classic mode, do some more of the stuff I haven't completed yet. This is the first character where I'm like, nah, I think I'll just skip and wait until the next character comes out, then I'll jump in. And that sucks because every other character, no matter how weird they are, Mithra Pyra, I don't give a shit about Xenoblade, Byleth, other lame Fire Emblem character, I'm still there and I'm hyped to get back in. This is the first one where I do not care at all, and it's just it's disappointing.
You hate to see it. Clay, where were you on this reveal?
Yeah, so I just looked up the pronunciation. It's Kazuya. So
Kazuya.
I will say Kazuya is not even like the character I would have chosen when it comes to Tekken. For one, I would have gone back to Tekken 3. I would have chosen Eddie, the breakdancing freaking fighter. He could have had so many amazing moves.
That sounds cool. Yeah.
Like it would have been great. Or just like Snell said with the panda.
Panda, for sure.
Panda would have been awesome. But you know, the very classic storyline in Kazuya's story in Tekken is him throwing off his master off that giant cliff. And so seeing all the animations, I guess that is fun. He did Marth dirty. He freaking he threw his hands up even further up when he threw Marth, and I'm just like, man, why would you do that to my favorite character?
And Martha's just holding his sword the whole time. Like he has apparently just an iron grip on that thing.
But I will say this: I used to like Tekken. I think for me, Tekken was just like that classic go-to fighter game for me back in the day. And putting him into something as whimsical and fantastical as Smash Bros. Does feel a little off to me. I know a lot of fans really want Sora from Kingdom Hearts in there, but there is a lot of different things with the rights and Disney having to put their fingers in all that. So
you don't want to get the big D in there. They're gonna want to cut. They want a big cut of Smash. Yeah.
So I don't think that'll ever happen. Unfortunately, it would be amazing. That would immediately have me buy a Switch, immediately.
Clay, how would you feel about John Wick?
Putting John Wick into a Smash Bros. Game?
Yeah, that's
he has had some video games.
Yeah,
so
yeah, he has. That would be pretty intense. That would be insane. But overall, like I said, I think a DLC isn't necessarily something that you open up with. As far as a Nintendo Direct, this was disappointing to me.
Smash is different. They always open with open or close with Smash, and there was a 1E3 where they open and closed with 2 different character announcements. I think that was
Smash.
I think that was actually
there,
the last.
baby.
I think that was their last E3. They had Banjo and Hero from Dragon Quest.
That's hilarious.
Closing.
Banjo. I can't wait. I'm waiting for all these DLCs to be done so I can just buy. I'm waiting for an ultimate, and then I can buy the whole thing.
Yeah, see, maybe that's like a Switch. The game, the ultimate bundle, and they pack it with the new console.
Yeah, that's just why I haven't bought it.
16 player matches.
Oh yeah,
crazy.
Jeez.
We're one spot away from no Waluigi, and it's gonna sting. You know how much it's gonna fucking sting when we got all these DLC fighters and characters, and not one of them was Waluigi. I'm gonna hate Sakurai forever. I'm never gonna forgive him.
I'm a fan of Daisy and all, but Daisy before Waluigi feels wrong. And she was easier. She's just a clone of Peach, but still. I would have been Mortal Kombat. I would have been hyped for. I don't like Mortal Kombat, but that would be so much more interesting. Even Soul Calibur, because those characters are all of them are
bringing Spawn in here.
Yeah, but yeah, even like you said, there's even Tekken has some really interesting character designs that I don't know. We didn't get it. I guess my one positive for this pick is that he's a villain, and I think that's cool. And Smash can always use more villains. And I did really like the cinematic. I always like the cinematics. They're really fun. And Kirby flying away at the end gave me a good laugh.
That's why
there's some positive in there.
That's why Subspace, what was it, Subspace Odyssey, or what was it
Emissary.
called? Emissary. That's why that was so good, because those cutscenes were phenomenal. I've always said, just get the team that does those and make an animated hour and a half movie. We would watch it. But yeah, it's I had heard, so I hope this isn't the last one, but the rumor that was going in, which I just really don't want, was, I know some people want, is Slayer from Doom. I just don't really want the Doom Slayer. I just think that would be a very generic pick, but people just thought because the partnership stuff like that, and I still worry it could be the last pick. So I hope that's not it. And I love the new Doom.
I wonder if people just say that because he has a double jump. I feel like that. I don't know if it sounds that interesting to me either.
No. Well, that was Smash. So then after Smash, we had Guardians of the Galaxy coming to Nintendo Switch, but as a cloud version. So there was back and forth about that. So does that mean it's just digital? Is that what it is?
So it's you stream the game. They've done this recently with Hitman 3, and Control, believe it or not, is playable on the Switch through this cloud thing. And you don't have an option. You have to play it streaming. You have to be connected to the internet, which takes away a bit from the handheld variant of it. You're not going to be on an airplane playing Guardians of the Galaxy. It's something they've been doing a lot more. And that when I first saw Guardians, I was like, this game must be either really fucking pared down from what we expect if it's going to run on a Switch, or they're just like Doom Eternal runs on a Switch. So I don't know what black magic they're doing. Yeah. But yeah, it makes a lot more sense that is the cloud version of the game. And apparently that tech is okay, but this is not where you want to play this game right now. Is what I'll say. Maybe the Switch Pro will have a better internet capability.
Yeah.
Because I mean the Switch notoriously has really just garbage internet. So maybe in the future it'll be something. But I would say for now, do not buy this version of the game if you are looking to have that golden guard. Usually, here's one thing I'll say for all these cloud games. They have like a free demo. So before you are allowed to buy it, Nintendo will not take your money until you test the game out and see if it runs well on your internet. So that's a good thing at least. So you can at least try it and see if it runs correctly. And if it doesn't, just skip it. So at least you can test it before you buy it.
Yeah, no, I had missed that when they announced it, and yeah, I feel like that defeats the purpose. I could see, like, of course, I'm gonna get this on my PS5 or Xbox, but I would see the purpose of, oh, I want to take that on the go, my job all. But it's like if you can't take that on the go, it's like I don't see. I guess if Switch is the only thing you have, then well, there you go, that's good for you, and you can play it one way at least. But yeah, any thoughts on that, Clay?
No, I was just really confused as of what cloud version meant. So thank you for the clarification. It does worry me a bit as far as like how this game will run anywhere else, but I'm pretty confident in Square Enix that they will, boost up whatever they have to have it play on Xbox and PlayStation. I already pre-ordered it for my PS5.
There you go.
I was way too excited for that game. Went ahead and got the digital deluxe version. So
I wouldn't be worried if I were you. Control is like one of the most intensive games out there right now.
I'm currently playing Control right now.
Yeah, and that's on the cloud Switch service. So it really the Switch's power really has nothing to do with it other than the internet capabilities. So I wouldn't worry about the control or the quality of Guardians based on this for sure.
Nice.
Next up, probably just for sentimental reasons, my game of the show, game of the weekend probably is Mario Party Superstars, announced for October.
Is this, once again, I'm curious where you're getting this list because you've skipped like several games. Like they're not big ones, but
this one's IGN, so you can check those ones out. Usually IGN's been good. I stopped using WarioWare because he would miss some, but yeah, after mine shout these out. But yeah, we got Mario Party Superstars announced. I think they said it was gonna be 5 maps here and 100 plus games. So far we got Peach's Birthday Cake and Spaceland. Oh my god, Spaceland confirmed. I really want them to confirm.
And then there's one confirmed from Mario Party 3. It's called like Woody Woods or some stupid Mario name. I haven't played that one, but I think I saw that was confirmed.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get it. I really want the Boo like haunted like Squarespace from Mario Party 2, but we'll see. But legitimately, I'd have to go back. It was first year, but I feel like this we talked about on the very first cast because we were talking about like the very first episode. GeekVerse talked about just general stuff like favorite movies, games, stuff. And I swear, since this podcast has started, I know there's recorded evidence somewhere. I've been saying all I want Nintendo to do is just remake 1, 2, 3, specifically 2 Mario Party. Because at that point, Mario Party sucked. I like the new Mario Party. I like it a lot. I think it's the best one they've done in years. But at that point, Mario Party was in the craps. It was like, move on this train and move as a team. No. They were trying to like make it like anticipation trophy worthy. Like, no, I don't want that. But so this game is pretty much exactly what I've been wanting for years. Is they're going to take 5 maps for the N64 area. Like when I saw Facelift all redone in nice HD, like, oh my goodness.
Bowser? Oh, I just want to pull that face.
Yeah, like this is a game, and I like it because the new game, it's not like, oh, another Mario Party. The new game is so much different. It has the duos mode and stuff like that. So it feels like it is a different game. But I even seeing when they showed like the scores of the characters and ranking like 1, 2, 3, 4, the aesthetic was the exact same same as the old games. It's just like this game was made for me. Me and Emily have already decided that this comes out 28th, 29th. The grandparents will be called. They're gonna watch the kids, and we're just gonna have a Mario Party night, and we're just gonna play the shit out of that. Because we've been talking about this lately, trying to play the N64, and we want to, but it doesn't work on my new TV. It only works on the small 32-inch, and we've been craving to play. We like the new one, but those old ones. So if this can recapture that magic, this one's a day one for me. Also, it's just a day one because I want to put money towards it to show them like, hey, I want more stuff like this. So if they were to like do DLC for another map or like a Mario Party Superstars 2, there is an audience for these nostalgia games. And yeah, like I said, maybe like Replace or some other ones might be my actual game of the weekend, but this one gets the number one just because like, man, I've been wanting this for years, for so many years, so I'm hyped.
Yeah, I wonder how they're going to support this game post-launch, because a lot of these like Mario sports games and even Mario Party on the Switch, the one that's already on there, got online added to it. Like a month ago or something. Like obviously it was kind of a precursor to this, but that game came out like 2 or 3 years ago. So it's very strange that it just kind of dropped like a month ago. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what they add in because 5 maps isn't really that many. You don't really need that many maps. I've always been more of a mini game guy, and they have set over 100 mini games.
Yeah, and 4 to 5 maps were usually what were in the N64 games.
true.
Really, like when you think about it, I'm always like, oh, there's so much more. But really, in the 2, there was like Western World, Ghost World, Space World, Bowser World, and the Tropical World. There was only like 5 in them.
Right.
So
yeah. I'm curious. I feel like this is something they could keep adding to. Just like here's a couple new mini games, and I think that'd be really cool. New maps. Yeah, I've talked about it before as well, but Mario Party 2 is my favorite Mario Party. I played it. Me and my girlfriend Mads, we broke out the N64 a couple months ago to play it, and obviously those N64 controllers, oh god, they're rough. But it was really fun to play the game again. I guess I just kind of have to wait and see a bit. Like they've kind of displayed like how much content is in here. It's I don't know. It's maybe hard for me to justify that cost, but we'll see when it comes out. Maybe I'll be really vibing. Maybe I'll be like a few months dry on not having any new Nintendo games, and I'll be like, okay, I got to get this. It looks amazing. I hope I was looking. I have like a wiki page here that I think this was like everything shown or everything that's announced, and the playable characters is looking a bit thin. I'd like to see that bolstered a bit more. But this list also only has 9, which is weird. Like they wouldn't have an odd number of characters, so I'm guessing that's not the full list that's in the game.
What are the characters they have so far? Because even like back in the day, N64 would only have like
they have all 6. The N64 or the Mario Party 2 ones at least. They have Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, Wario, Donkey Kong, which I think those were the 6 that were in Mario Party.
Those
2.
were until Mario Party 4 they gave Donkey Kong the boot. He was in the first 4 and then they kicked him. Yeah.
And then they have Waluigi, Birdo, and Rosalina.
Oh, that's great. They got Waluigi. That's great. He was never around the N64 era.
I really want to see Dry Bones. I like Bowser Jr. as well. I'd like to see him. Really, it's just Dry Bones. I just want Dry Bones. But it's weird that they would have only 9. So I think they will probably have more than that. I actually don't know how many were in.
Well, unless there's one like the new game, they could have something to unlock. So maybe they'll kind of keep those hidden, like, oh yeah, there's other characters. You got to get them. And it's like, we know they're a Mario character. It's not going to be like the Tekken guy or anything. But either way, we'll have this game for the November stream. So when you come down, we're definitely going to be playing some. We're going to be playing some Mario Party because I'm very excited for that. So.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Just like the graphics, like all these Nintendo games have that level of polish, that squeaky cleanness to them. And this one's like, my God, it just looks beautiful.
Like I always call Nintendo, like if Kojima's the Nolan of the gaming world, they're the Pixar of the gaming world. They have a quality that they just always hit for the most part. Every once in a while, you get a Cars in there, you get the Star Fox game, but like this is exactly what I wanted. So yeah, I'm so excited. Clay, do you have a soft spot for Mario Party? Or you?
I do have a soft spot to Mario Party. So much so that recently I followed this person on TikTok. He has a home business where he collects vintage gaming systems, and he has like a whole storage closet full of video games, and he's made his own business. So all of his TikToks are just packing orders for his customers, and he has like 18 Nintendo 64s, and I'm just like, I really want to know if I can order one right now. Like I've been on his website several times, and I'm super like really tempted to buy a Nintendo 64 because I really want to get.
Man's buying a 64. He's buying a Switch. He's buying an Xbox. My God.
I want to get Abby into gaming, but I know she won't go like really intense with the stuff that I like. So I feel like anything Mario related is like, hey, this is for beginners. Mario Kart was like my go-to game for beginners for when I first got the N64 when I was a kid. So Mario Party, I feel like, is just that kind of game, especially just because of the wacky freaking games that are inside that. I think it'll just be super, super fun. Now, if I'm going to be able to get this, I'm not entirely sure because I was just telling you guys on the Discord. Right now, I think my priority should be the Xbox because it's still super hard to find right now. So much so that like the only place I can get a Series S is like Amazon. So, but for this, I'm super excited about it because it does, just like Travis said, it is polished, it is clean, it looks amazing.
I had to take a picture because Dylan, you sent me that
Mhm.
Wikipedia thing, and the cover. I'm pretty sure that's a pizza at the bottom, and that
Mhm.
is Emily and her best friend right away. Because I told Emily, and then she told her best friend. They're like, "Eats a pizza better be in this game," because
I
that's
think I
a
saw it in a trailer, so
oh,
I mean, obviously it's on the cover, so it's
it
in
has
there.
to be, yeah, and it
The
is like
pizza looks so fucking good. I wanted to eat
oh,
it.
yeah, and that is Emily's game. She is like, like
Nice.
faceless, but Eats a Pizza is like huge. But the thing for her was Eats a Pizza was in the third one, and we still both like the second one better. But she likes some of those
Yeah.
mini games in the third one, so that's what I kind of love too. It's just like this celebration of Mario Party is not just like, hey, we're just doing two. It's like we're doing 1, 2, and 3. So it's like you could
No,
play a map.
it's actually more. There's according to this Wikipedia article, it has mini games from literally all of them.
Oh yeah, no, but that's what I mean. The maps. So it's like you
The
play
maps,
the
yeah.
Space Land from Mario Party 2, and you're getting these mini games that go from all generations. Like I think this thing's gonna be a massive hit. Like in the first, like this last Mario Party, it's not doing like one of the best games of all time, but it's constantly selling a lot because it's just like it's a go-to easy game for anybody can. Mario Party is one of those games anybody can play. It's a good party game. It's a good family game. It's just that kind of 4 quadrants game that I could have my parents over and play that with them, and we'd have a good time. Because you know what?
Mhm.
The randomness of Mario Party, they might somehow win. And that's the best thing about Mario Party. And it's probably because I like Monopoly too. It's like you could literally land on a star or land on a block, you get 3 stars, and look, my mom somehow won this stupid game, and you're mad and everything like that. But that's the fun thing. You're always in it, you
And those
know? So
fucking bonus stars, man.
the
Always
bonus
the most
stars, man.
arbitrary stats.
Oh man.
There's a couple things I noticed in here that they took some of the OG games and then they like completely changed the look of it and gave it like a whole new aesthetic. So the one that I noticed was Hexagon Heat, which is one of my favorites. That
Yep.
might be my favorite. That might be my Eats a Pizza, where it's just like these 7 hexes that rise up and down. Total call out which one you have to jump on. In the Mario Party 2, it's lava. You're above lava. In this game, they changed it like kind of like a water theme, which looks really
Yeah.
nice because it raises up and then the water slowly drips off. Hexagon Heat. If you go on my Twitter right now, my Twitter banner for years it's just a screenshot of Hexagon Heat. I love Hexagon Heat.
They can't be
so
burning these characters in 2021,
yeah, what do you
though,
think?
Dylan.
What do you think about them changing it? Because the other one I noticed too is the Simon Says one, where before it was like you're floating in the sky and you have balloons, and he shoots your
Yeah.
balloons, but now you're behind like a pirate ship, and and the shy guy will like take an axe to a rope that like leaves you lost at sea. So they taking these mini games and like changing the look of them, like the setting completely. What do you think of that, Travis?
I don't mind it. Like honestly, if you had to ask me the either or, I would just take the full on old school versions but updated. But it's like okay, if they want to put a little spin on it, but it's at the end of the day the same exact game just with a different aesthetic, that's fine. I do wonder though, because the old games used to do this where there'd be some mini games where it'd be like there'd be like a nighttime mode and then a daytime mode sometimes. Like you would play
Yeah,
them, they'd be
like
the
the
same game.
ball one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I still think there's a chance that maybe and Hexagon Heat, there's another one like that where it's not Hexagon Heat, but I feel like it's like that where you're on a bunch of platforms, but it would change settings. So there's still a chance that maybe Hexagon Heat is in there, or like that Pyro one sounds less likely. But I'm still, I guess I'll give them the pass because they're just doing some of those games. But I get if they want to put their own spin on it, you know, make it seem a little bit newer than it used to be. So
Yeah.
It does
What
say
was-
online play is supported. So immediately.
Right. Yeah, I
it's
guess
gonna be
that was
fun.
the reason they sorted it out with the old Mario
100
Party. The
Yeah,
timing of it is
100%.
super weird, but I guess it was just like, okay, does it work? It works.
But
Just
again, for
copy
me,
paste that code.
I'm just very happy because Mario Party is one of my favorite franchises, and for a while I was on life support. I worried like the same way how we've gone 2 Striker games, and I've been like, man, when are we ever gonna get a Strikers game? Mario Party is getting close to that. Like those games weren't selling the greatest. They, like I said, fans didn't really enjoy them that much anymore. They're always for a new audience, but just felt like they missed the point of Mario Party. It's just like
Yeah.
you got to stick to the basics, and maybe that's why people complain about Mario sports games. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like if it works, don't don't try to fix what's broken. It's like a great system, so
We're not alone in liking the N64 ones the most, and a lot of people feel the same
Yeah.
for the GameCube ones. Those are their favorites. So yeah, there's somewhere along the line they lost the magic. So hopefully this kind of revitalizes it a bit.
Yeah, and I already feel like the last one they did pretty much recapture most of the magic because it had like the board again, it had like consequences and stuff, it had like a lock on item. So I think like that was maybe the setup for them getting there, and maybe somebody just looked around, they're like, let's just do the old one again, like let's just do it. And
$80, let's do it.
here we are. So Dylan, what were some of those games I missed there?
Okay, yeah. So, Life is Strange was before Guardians. Just saying that it's coming to the Switch, and then they announced the remaster of the first one that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think if you guys have anything to add, just jump in here. And then
that was one of the things that I said. It's good marketing, but not necessarily for us. Those games, like I said, when it was announced, I think what was it? The Ubisoft? No, it wasn't Ubisoft.
They were announced. The new one was announced like I want to say a few months ago, and so it's just been more like
the remaster is the one that been.
The remaster's new, I guess, right?
Yeah, but it is a like decision-making game, so you can play it anywhere. I feel like it's so having it on the Switch, I think, is a really nice addition to that type of gameplay.
Yeah, and then the other three that I don't think there's much to add: Worms Rumble, which is kind of the Worms Battle Royale. It's coming out June 23rd. Astria Ascending, which is kind of a 2D RPG, kind of hand painted, looks kind of nice. Comes out September 30th, and then 2 Point Campus, which we saw in what conference was that? Was that Summer Game Fest? It was Summer Game Fest.
So. That's
So it's just saying, hey, it's coming to the Switch as well. That's next year. So that one I find a little bit puzzling. I don't know why they would announce that. Like, so it feels like for that kind of game, feels really weird to announce it so far in advance. And I wonder if it's just like, maybe those games, obviously there's a ton of them out there. Maybe they just sell like super fucking well. And so that's like something worthy to get out there. But I feel like for Nintendo, they usually announce like, here's our slate for the next few months. But it seemed like a bit of an outlier to me. And then this big one that you kind of skipped over, maybe it was later in your list, is the Monkey Ball Super
20th anniversary.
Yeah, which is, to me, I think that's like a pretty big deal. People really like that game and those games rather. And there's been kind of a resurgence of them, like alternate or games that just take that idea in recent times. And so I think people have been wanting a new Monkey Ball. And I think it's really good because it's not just 1 or 2 or 3 games. It's like, it looks like 5 or 6 or maybe more than that, like Monkey Ball games all bundled together. And I haven't really played these games, but from what I hear, it's really Super Monkey Ball 1 and 2 are the ones you want to play. So the other ones, maybe you don't really play them so much, but still, like, at least it's in there. And even if you're just playing 1 and 2, it still is like a shit ton of games in there. And what's nice about it is this game isn't one of those Nintendo rebundles and then put it out there for $80. This one is 55 Canadian dollars, so translate that to your local currency. So it's a budget price for like a ton of games. I don't think they're really remastered or redone. It seems like they're mostly the same games. So I guess you could look at it in that reason, but that's coming out October 5th. So I feel like that one has its audience and was worthy of shouting out. And that was all you skipped so far, but I'm sure a couple of the other small ones maybe you don't have on those lists. But
yeah, I think some of those when they're in like the montage, sometimes these sites don't like collect them all and everything like that. So if I am correct, let's see, it should be, what do you got next? Because now I'm back, but you go ahead. You go. Your list is probably better than mine.
Yeah, I mean, I made it myself, so I don't know. Maybe it's good, but it also has human error. Metroid Dread was the next one I had on my list. And this is I guess, 5th in the series for the 2D Metroid series. After 20 years, they said, which is crazy. I kind of forgot about that because one came out on the 3DS in 2017 that I got, but that was a remake of Super Metroid, I think was what that one was a remake of. And then the one I played as well when I was younger, Metroid Zero Mission, I think has like a remake / remaster / maybe some new content from the first Metroid. So it's actually been a very long time since there's been a new one. This is the 5th one in the series. And we got a lot for it today. They even had it in their kind of treehouse segment, so you could see like half an hour worth of just raw gameplay. So what do you guys think of this?
This was awesome. I felt like I had heard some rumblings of a Metroid game. I feel like Metroid is just another one of those games that everybody just wants, so that's probably why I heard it. But seeing this announcement actually got me pretty excited to hopefully one day own a Switch. The 2D part of any Metroid game has always been like a really big seller for me, just because it has that classic feeling. But polishing it with like Switch graphics is amazing. I think the last Metroid game I played was possibly on the GameCube. I know that they made one for the launch for the Wii, but I can't remember which one that was exactly. But
Other M or something like that.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I think so. But this looks awesome. Like the fact that, like, I don't know, Metroid has always been one of those games that like I want to play and then never get the chance to, but then always like borrow it from a friend and be like, oh man, if only I could have this game, and I just never go forward with actually purchasing it. This looks really, really solid, really polished. And like I said, I feel like this was the first big announcement for, in my opinion, as far as Nintendo goes.
Yeah, to me it looks great. Like even when they just threw that name up there, like I know it's actually been around for a long time because I had heard that this game was announced like very, very long time ago. But when it was just like Dread, it looked cool. I loved the aesthetic. It felt new. It felt grimy. It didn't feel too polished, but I think that's kind of what it was on purpose. I could have used like a little more polish on maybe some of those enemy types, but that's fine. It's still, coming out. But yeah, I'm a Metroid fan. I am definitely looking more forward to the Prime edition. Once we get to that, I remember Metroid Prime on GameCube was just such an experience. That was to me the first like game I played that felt, no pun intended, like Dread, like just seeing like the little bars in the left hand corner, like you only got this much plasma, you only got this much life, and then you got this huge monsters come at you, and then there's all this stuff. Like it's as someone that doesn't like first person games, that's one of the first person games I hold in such a high esteem. It's like, man, that was such an experience. And this looked great. This is not a day one for me. This is not a game that I don't think I'll be purchasing for a bit, because it's kind of one of these things where I have played these before many times, but it looked really great. Like it looked very kinetic. It was fast paced moving. I loved everything about it, but it's just one of those of when a bunch of games are coming out this fall that I will be playing. It's like, okay, something's got to fall to the wayside. So look really good, but it's just because obviously I've said this before, other than, your occasional Call of Duty that falls in my lap, I'm more of a story guy. And I know this one's going to be pretty light on story. It's going to be a get from point A to point B. So I think this is a game that I could own eventually. Obviously, Nintendo games never go on sale. It takes a long time, but it's a game that maybe eventually on a box day or something I might pick it up. But yeah, I thought it was a great demonstration, and I'm very excited for it. And yeah, or maybe it's something like if a few games come around that, like if Guardians or Deathloop come out and people just say, they're trash, don't buy them, and I have a few things open, it's like, okay, well, maybe it'll slide right in there. So I'm excited. It's looking better than that Metroid soccer game that we got a few years ago. We've come a far way.
Yeah,
so.
Federation Force, whatever that was called. Yeah, Metroid Dread. First, the name for some reason really stands out to me. It just seems like two words. I mean, Metroid itself isn't even like a very nice sounding word. It's just like two words that kind of are grated on the ears next to each other, but that kind of fits the game. They're kind of supposed to be unsettling, and the music, oh my god, the music's so great in these games. I don't know. I think this is definitely the announcement of the show. Big surprise, really hyped. I think the showing was weird. Like we talked about the audio issues with Nintendo's Direct in general. I think the visuals also, like obviously always when they're streaming these things, the quality is going to be a bit lower than when they upload it like 4K on YouTube, whatever it is later. I think this one suffered. I felt like when I first saw it, I thought this didn't look so great. But then when I was watching some of the Treehouse, I thought it actually looked a lot better in general. I don't know if that price tag is just really difficult for me, especially because I did get that 2017 Metroid Samus Returns, and I never beat it. So it's like maybe I should just go back and finish that game first. I love Zero Mission. That's one of my favorite games. I've played that one a ton. But I also like, I still haven't beat Hollow Knight. I should probably go back and finish that. And I feel like, while Metroid's been gone, tons and tons and tons of indie games have filled that void of Metroidvania, and it's like a very popular genre now. And I wonder where Nintendo actually holds up in that sphere. Like even Castlevania has been super absent, and other games have kind of taken that mantle and taken that kind of gameplay loop and made it something special still. So I think if this one really it gets like amazing reviews, or even just people's impressions are, wow, this is maybe my game of the year, maybe I'll get kind of I'll kind of buy in and check it out. But I just think there's so many other Metroidvanias that I either I haven't beat yet, or other ones that are cheaper indie games that I would be more into. The one thing I really wanted to shout out here is they kind of showed it in the trailer, but then it was more in the treehouse. Was there's this one enemy that's just a kind of generic robot with this big eye, and it kind of is hunting you down through these specific rooms. And it just has like this very spider-like movement to it. It's crawling along the roofs, it's jumping down. And it just like it seems even more menacing than the bosses. The way it chases you, it's really fast. It seems like where if you take a long fall and therefore make like more noise, that it just like hears you and then instantly starts jumping towards you. And that gameplay looked really, really satisfying and terrifying in a way that the boss fights can't really do, because it's like, oh, I got to get out of here. I got to find my way out. It's not like, oh, I just have to overcome this thing. It's like, well, that thing caught the people on Treehouse and just stabbed Samus through the heart and killed her instantly to reload. So it looks really cool, and so it's definitely on my radar. And I think probably the announcement of the show, but I gotta wait and see a bit more personally. What do you guys think of the visuals of Samus? Because they kind of gave her a redesign. It's kind of a white suit mostly, and then a little bit of like the helmet's red, and then I forget what color her shoulders.
Blue. It's red, white, and blue.
Right. Yeah. So what do you guys think of the new color scheme? Because I really love the Samus orange. So I don't know how I feel about the new look.
I don't think it's a home run, but I like when games do different costumes. It's probably the comic book geek in me, but I like, okay, this is Dread. This is what she looks like here. And I really like white aesthetic on superheroes. I like when we can like get that, because especially if there's going to be some blood or dirt, you get to mess up the suit. So I got to see the suit more. I think I'll like it more, not if it's moving around once I see it, but I don't I think it's not the color scheme. It's more the outfit looks more jagged, like the edges are really tough, like really like so I don't love it, but I love that it's a different look for this, because I think in Metroid Prime 4, whenever we get that, I think she will have the classic, the go-to very smooth, sleek, robotic, but can turn into a ball. I think it'll be pretty much classic Samus.
Yeah,
I actually really enjoy this. I don't like that everybody just thinks of red, white, and blue, and it's like automatically America. But like
that's what it is.
The white does look pretty crisp. I really do enjoy it. I kind of like the almost gunmetal blue shading of in between her suit. Looks really, really nice. And her shoulders and the booster pack that's blue. I really do enjoy it.
I like the shoulders. The shoulders are good.
Yeah, and in these games you always get suit unlocks anyway, like the fusion suits all purple, stuff like that. So I'm sure he'll change it up. Do you want me to keep going through my list here, Travis?
Well, two things I was gonna say. One, if this was a $40 game, this would be a day one for me. Like if it was in that price range of
me
the
too.
Crash Spyro, that's where I would be. But I get they probably won't. And you can keep going right after this ad break.
Stupidly, okay. Go ahead. Very stupid.
I should have let you thrown to it. We'll pause. All right, and then what were you saying, Dylan, about the
stupidly? I should have said this before the ad break. I didn't write down the release date. What was the exact release date of this one? Because they did announce it, right? Like they 2021 holiday.
October. It doesn't give me
October
a
8th,
day.
2021.
8th.
I'm watching the stream while we talk. So,
and that's the tough thing for me too. When
especially with Mario Party, right? Same month, man.
That's why. It's same thing. If it was 40, I'd be like, okay. But when I saw that both October, I thought, oh, that's great. Like they got an option. But for me, it was like, I gotta pick and choose, because if I go, because Deathloop supposedly come out in September, right?
I hope so.
Yeah,
it's been delayed almost a year. Please, I need it.
If I get that, which I'm leading to, because up at that point, I won't have anything new. And like I said, I want to get into like an arcade game. So if I get that, and then I get Mario Party, and then I get Guardians, which Guardians for me is I have to like it.
That's a great fall. Yeah.
It's the content for the podcast. It's a great fall, but it's also over $200.
Yep.
So once if I were to add Metroid to that, we're getting that 300 range, and that's where Metroid might actually be a good like, hey, what do you want for Christmas game? And I'm like, you know what, that might be the one. But if I have to pick, that's the, and especially because even there's a game coming up you are going to bring up that I still might be getting as well, just because someone else in my household likes it. So the fall's great. It's a great fall, but like we said, things have to go by the wayside. You can't always play them all,
Yeah. The next three things here, I'll just quickly shout out. Cruise and Blast was a kind of arcadey racing game. Just Dance, of course, they had to announce that was in there and get the DM or the copyright infringement for all the streamers out there. And then they said Dragon Ball Kakarot was coming to the Switch. I thought that one was weird. I feel like they spent long on that one. It's like that game.
Well,
came
this
out
was another marketing one that I felt was really nice.
Yeah.
This is a game that I've been wanting to play for quite some time, but it's a game that never goes on sale. I absolutely hate it.
Then it's not going on sale on Switch.
Well, it definitely won't. But I just think with the same way in how I said Life is Strange, the type of gameplay, this one they've made it a little bit like the whole point, the selling point of this game is that it's open world. And this not being a cloud version of the game and actually being able to go outside and have that the capability, just to not always be in your house, that is really, really cool. And I think that is a really good selling point. But yeah, I was actually kind of hyped for this.
Well, there you go. I guess it had its purpose. I felt like that game kind of came and went. And so I don't know. I thought like it was a bit too long, but obviously it's there for a certain audience. So there you go. The next game up was Mario Golf. Not really anything new here, except I guess they confirmed online. I think that was maybe something that they didn't explicitly say in the little direct or trailer they had a few weeks ago. And then the only other thing they confirmed was that free DLC is coming in the form of new characters and maps at some point. And they showed New Donk City, which I don't think was shown before. So that I'm guessing is a DLC thing, or it's like a training area that's in the base game. I'm not too sure. I'm getting this game. I'm very excited for it. I think that like they did like a 5-minute trailer a few weeks ago that kind of was the deep dive. And I mean, I was already kind of sold, but that kind of sold me even more. I'm super into it. Do you guys have anything to add on that one?
No, again, that's kind of that thing of I really like Mario Golf, but I got to think about what to purchase, everything like that. But that's a game that we'll have the Mario Party here. You bring the golf down for November when we do that. But yeah, Mario, like all those games are quality. Mario games, sports games, for the majority of them are always quality. So I know it's going to be really well made. And it's a game that, if I have the opportunity to play, I will play and have a good time with it. So I love them showing like that motion of people running to get the you can
off look
mode,
that was the one thing that I was gonna say is probably the selling point for this game for me. I don't know why. I was just watching the gameplay and I was like, okay, it's just another Mario sports game. I know that they do well. I think one of my favorite franchises for Mario sports is Mario Tennis. I don't know why, but seeing this and seeing that like it's basically Mario Kart, but you run and try to get your ball in the hole the fastest. I think that's super fun.
Yeah, that's one of the main selling points. That just seems like such a fun mode. I'm super into that one. Next up, they showed Monster Hunter Stories 2. I don't think we need to talk about this. We talked about it on Summer Game Fest. It was also in the Capcom. Like this one is another one that's been shown so much. Obviously, it's coming out in like a few weeks, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
And then this next one was kind of a surprise for some probably, but others kind of saw it coming, was a new WarioWare game. I didn't write down the full title like an idiot. If you guys have that on you,
Get Together, I think Get It Together.
Yes, that's it. So yeah, this is just another WarioWare game. I mean the first one coming to Switch. Doesn't seem like anything too crazy. It seemed that they mentioned co-op as if it was something that hasn't been in the games before. I mean, they've always kind of been handheld, so maybe that's a new feature. The one thing I think is worthy of pointing out here is that this is like really the only Nintendo first-party game that is starting out at a lower price point. I think it's around $50 or $60 Canadian price point. So yeah, it's a bit cheaper, which I think is justified. But that's kind of what I was alluding to. Like there was this thing a few weeks ago where Nintendo was sending out emails to certain like people who buy their games, and they were saying like, how much would you pay for a WarioWare game? And that was like literally the whole email. And like, it seemed like it was very random at who the people, like even people had purchased WarioWare email, but like other people were. And so I guess that was just straight up them asking a couple weeks in advance, like, how much do you want to pay for this game? And people said, I will not pay full price for it. So there you go. So now we know in the future, if you guys get those emails, anyone listening up there, tell them lowball it, because it means they've already finished the game and they're trying to find out how much they should sell it for. So are you guys WarioWare people? I've never really I think I've always been like, I'd rather play Mario Party than play WarioWare. I know they're different, but still mini micro games.
I wasn't. I didn't know what WarioWare was until I started dating Emily, and she's a massive fan. So
Ooh,
the
okay.
fact that it is even cheaper now, I think it probably will be getting purchased. I have to check because they said the game was like a bunch of mini clips, which is like the the party games. So I have to show her because when I told her that, she's like, "Oh, I don't know about that," because there's other modes where and. Obviously, this is a little less of the motion controls, but the Wii one was hailed by like a lot of people's liking, and she really liked it too because it was just lots of you do funny motions and be like, okay, you got to spank this guy, and you got, like stuff like that. Where this seems like it might be less of that. So I haven't had her watch the trailer yet, but we're gonna watch the trailer and she's gonna see because if it's the stuff she kind of likes less, then we won't get it. But I think 2-player has it like it's been around. It was definitely in that Wii. Well, in the Wii one, it was more like I think she would play the game, and then it's like,
Turns.
okay, now it's second person turn. It was never at the same time. So this is a potential because she really likes them. But again, I think they said it was mostly mini clips, and if it's that, it might not be. But yeah, it's possibly on the list. If not, maybe a Christmas present here or there. So
Nice.
I am not familiar with the games whatsoever. I think I saw the trailer for like one of the first games that had Wario as the main character. Not really my cup of tea, but there's an audience out there for it. So
gonna win. When's
Yeah.
Waluigi getting his game? You know, he's not getting
I know. I
Smash.
want that.
He has one game for like the 3DS. I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to look it up while we're casting. But he has
I did
one
not
game.
even know that. I gotta.
Oh yeah,
look
he
it
has
up.
one game. I think we've had this conversation before where we looked it up, but continue.
I just keep forgetting.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next game was Shin Megami Tensei 5. I didn't write the release date down. This is from
Fucking wild trailer.
yeah.
Wild.
It's a wild looking game. Even in they had some more of it at the Treehouse, and they showed more of it. So this is a game from either the team or at least the studio, some subdivision of the team that makes Persona. This is the series that kind of led into Persona, and it seems like it's kind of a post-apocalyptic open world action adventure turn-based sort of combat game. Definitely a lot going on, a lot of craziness, a lot of really weird monster designs that I'm really into. It's these games. I mean, Persona. I would love to be one of those people that's played Persona and loves it, but it's just such a time sink that I'm not really willing to invest in. And I kind of feel like that's probably the same thing for these things. I do like a lot of what's going on here because it does seem pretty unique within a genre that's done by a lot of other studios, but yeah, just not really for me. I will say that the hair animations of your character, just this blue hair that's flowing like crazy, is on point, and that looks amazing. And I'm curious, Clay. I wonder if this one's for you because in this game it looks like you're kind of battling monsters and then collecting them and then using them to fight. And you've alluded to being a big Pokemon fan, so what does that draw you in, or what do you think of this trailer in general?
This was very, very interesting. It has, the aesthetic that I like. I'm big into the anime manga genre, so I really love the aesthetic. It kind of also had a Monster Hunter / Final Fantasy feel to the game as well. I would be willing to give this a shot. If you get to tame giant crazy monsters, then hell yeah, let's do it.
That's all you need. Yeah. Travis, you are just me saying Pokemon has probably just made you check out. You're just so far against it that you're probably not going to get this one.
Well, this is a combination of Pokemon and anime, which isn't really up my alley. But I think for me, this trailer, at the first 30 seconds of it, I thought was a terrible trailer because they're just like, they're talking about Japan and like there's Japan with people and this and that. And then there's another Japan. And it was just like, it cuts to black. And then it's like, you wake up in a world that's a different Japan with monsters and demons and you had to fight to survive. And then it's like, and combined with others like soldiers. And this guy just sticks his hand out. And it was like, oh, this is just not for me. And then it just got super weird of showing all these things like get together. But like, yeah, eventually they just embrace the weirdness, which I appreciate. They're just like, yeah, this is a crazy ass game. And yeah, definitely not one that would be on my radar, but I enjoyed it for the entertainment value gaming for the seconds. I know it would probably have some sort of audience, so it definitely looked wild.
Yeah, that's a Kirklin and Clay review. I think we're gonna see that one on the GV timeline in the future.
And Kirklin will never finish it though, so that's the problem.
No, he won't. It'll be an impressions. It'll be an impressions review.
I understand. That's
or
all
like
you get.
Clay's like, can we get into spoilers? And Kirkland's like, I don't know. I haven't played it.
Couple more months.
The most awkward review. The next thing they showed was Danganronpa. I don't know if it was I'm sorry, I didn't write this down. I don't know if it was a collection or a new one. I think it was a collection of some sort. These are kind of like Ace Attorney games, but like more zany is the vibe I get. So that's a thing coming out. The next was Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater, which is a horror game that I think it looked fucking awesome. I really want to play it. When I looked into it more, I realized it's actually a remaster or like another one of those Wii U ports. So the game came out in 2014. It's coming out. It did look a bit dated, but I still think the Japanese horror in it looks fantastic and it has pretty good reviews. So I mean, the game's been out for years, so I could see myself picking this one up if I'm looking for a particularly spooky game at some point. I guess depending on the price point, I couldn't find. It's not listed on the eShop yet, so I don't know what the price point is. They've been kind of savage in the past. Pikmin 3, $80 game for an old Wii U game. So who knows what the price of this one will be if it's not necessarily one of those big tentpole Nintendo franchises. But what do you guys think? Travis, you're a big horror guy. Is this one do it for you?
It looked
Are you
really
a Japanese horror fan in general? I don't know if we've ever.
I'm a fan of any horror, like Grudge, Ringu, and stuff like that. You know, like I like those. I always just wonder how these games sell on the Switch because I just feel like it's such the polar opposite of what its fan base is. But I really liked it, but I don't think I would be getting this. I think I would probably, if I'm getting a horror game, like get the Resident Evil 8 after I finish 7, stuff like that. So I always like that Switch has a variety. That's good. I just always wonder, I'd love to see the exact specific sales of like, okay, but again, like you said, it's a Wii U port, so probably doesn't cost that much to do this. So it was a fun little trailer. It's nice to break up the tension of just kind of more family friendly fare, even though we just got another Tokyo like trailer, which was like wild. But what about you, Clay?
I will not be getting this. I nearly freaking died by playing Resident Evil 8 in the first place, and seeing that you are a photographer and ghosts just pop out at you, hell no. Like no. 100% no. Like this.
But you can pretend that your Switch is the camera and you can hold it up.
Yeah, that is all nice and dandy. That's why I have Pokemon Snap. Yeah. If I get a Switch, I will get Pokemon Snap before I get that.
I did get Snap. It is really fun, so you should get that for sure.
Exactly.
Next up was a little reminder for some DLC things. Doom Eternal DLC is coming out. Tony Hawk's Remaster is finally coming out to Switch, which I still want to pull the trigger on that game. It's hard to justify the price, but I really, really want that game. It does not look the quality. I mean, I don't know. I have to watch the trailer again on like not compressed, but it did not look amazing. And then their kind of out today game was this game called Strange Brigade, which I've never heard of. It's kind of a I don't know, combat third person exploration. Didn't really look like open world, but a tomb exploration sort of game. That was their out today game. It seemed like a bit of a flat out today game compared to what they've done in the past. Usually they have like some big banger, like some solid indie game that's like, oh shit, I'm gonna go pick that up. I don't know if this one really caught anyone's radar. And then Mario Rabbids was next. I don't think we need to go into detail on this one. It was like we said, announced at Ubisoft. Didn't show anything new here. I like that they didn't show here's the full trailer again, because that trailer was long at Ubisoft, which was good there, but to show the full thing again would have been a real slog. So I'm glad they kind of breezed past that one. And then we're kind of near the end here. There's one thing before the Zelda stuff, and that is Advanced Wars. And this was a big deal, I think. This is a series that's kind of gone dormant for a very long time, and people really want it, especially with like Fire Emblem being kind of the peak it's ever been. Three Houses was such a big success, and that's kind of always been the thing, is there's like Advanced Wars fans, there's Fire Emblem fans, and there's like Final Fantasy Tactics fans that are all like that turn-based grid strategy, but like they always have their preferences, and it feels like the Advanced Wars fans are the ones that are kind of have got the short end of the stick forever. And I'm into that genre a lot, and I've always wanted to play Advanced Wars, but this is where it becomes difficult. You know, we talked about Super Monkey Ball has like the 2 golden games in the series and then a bunch of other stuff in there for $55. Advanced Wars just has these 2 Game Boy Advance games for $80. Like, come on, man, that's just so savage. Like, if it had all of the games, there's 4 games in the series, I believe. If it had all of them, maybe at that point it's a little bit more justified, but it just seems a bit savage for. I mean, it is remastered and redone, but I mean, the graphics, they were okay. I think the character like models in game didn't look good, but like some of the tanks and things looked cool, like kind of toy soldier, kind of cute aesthetic. But I mean, I would really, really want to get this one. I hope it's one that does go on sale, but since it's a first party Nintendo, I don't have high hopes that it will go past 15-20% in the next 10 years.
Yeah. Unless it reviews terribly. That's the only time they kind of like put them out there. Like, oh yeah, sure. It becomes like Nintendo Selects like that we used to have, but
yeah, and then the load times, because this is on the Treehouse as well. The load times in and out of those little combat shots is pretty brutal as well. So hopefully that's something that's ironed out before release. I guess my recommendation is for people who maybe aren't aware, there is a game that kind of came out that is essentially the spiritual successor to Advance Wars, and that's War Groove that came out on the Switch. And that game is a cool $25-$30. I did a review for it if you want to go back and check it out. But that's an amazing game. It has tons of content, has online custom maps, and it's literally just ripped exactly what Advance Wars is, with a different aesthetic. So if you want that, maybe just go to Wargroove. I mean, obviously, I'd love to support Advance Wars and get another one, but I just feel like that price tag is very greedy on Nintendo's part. It's for Game Boy Advance games. Come on. I don't know how much you guys are into this genre necessarily. Well, I know Travis isn't really. It's not for him, but where are you guys on this one?
Yeah, I hadn't ever heard of the game, and I think that's just because like the genre you describe, I've not played that many, and when I have, okay, not really for me. So no, I did see lots of excitement for it online, so that always tells me like lots of times if I'm not excited for something, and then online I hear nothing, I go, okay, most people are like me, haven't heard that much. It's maybe a dormant franchise like Stalker 2 from Xbox. Like, yeah, some people I heard about, but I heard no one like Stalker or this. I was like, oh, Advance Wars. I saw lots of people pop for this, be really excited. So the only thing when you're talking about like it being a classic franchise that was brought back, I don't know why, maybe because it's Wars and classic. I'm just thinking, Dylan, like, when am I gonna get an Army Men game? You know, remember Army Men on N64?
Oh, yes.
When am I gonna get that? You know, obviously nothing to do with this, but like I just thought about that. Like, man, I want that at some point. But yeah, like I said, I saw excitement for this, so it's just tough, like what you say though with the price tag. It's just I do like that we are in this era for lots of consoles now where it's like either you have, you know, Xbox Games Pass, PS Now, $30. Like I loved when PlayStation and other people were doing the like, because I guess it's not just them, but like Crash was $30, like Spiral was 40. I love that because I always believe like what people say. It's like if someone were to charge like $100 for Witcher 3, I could see why, because it's such a massive game, right? But then maybe other smaller games, you know. So I like the price alteration, but Nintendo is there, and this is where business wise they're much like Disney, where Disney Plus stuff like that. Go to a theme park, go to a Disney park theme park, and nothing there is cheap at all. It is the most, you'll get stuffies that are $60, and you're like, why am I paying for this? Because it's the Disney brand, and Nintendo is much like that with their prices. But what about you, Clay? Does this speak to you at all, this game?
This does speak to me. I'm a very big tactics fan. Final Fantasy, Fire Emblem. It's just my genre. I absolutely love it. I love the strategy in it. I think one of my favorite ones recently that I played, and I haven't played for quite some time, was Valkyrie for the PS4. It was a remaster. Absolutely loved it. I love the animation for this game, for the characters. I had never heard of this title before, so it was new to me. I did like the almost chibi like character models for this. So it looks fun, but like you said, for the actual price of it, it's going to be a hard sell.
Yeah, I don't know how long those games are. Like maybe they're super long campaigns and it justifies the price. I really have no idea, but yeah, for Game Boy Advance games, I don't know. Seems a bit savage. I hope that does. I don't know. I hope it is successful enough for them to greenlight a sequel. Because
was there a date on that?
I think it's this year. Well, it is this year. Let me see if there's a.
For a completionist, it says that Advance Wars can take up to 40 hours.
Okay,
40 hours.
That's not bad.
It comes out December 3rd.
Okay, that's not a bad date either, because I thought if it was coming that September October day, they might get swallowed up and forgotten. That happens all the time. I
Yeah.
will always say that's why that last Crash game did not do the greatest, because they like released it at this time where all these other huge bangers were coming out. I was like, you don't do that. Like Crash is a game you like release with nothing else going on. So December there'll be other games, but that's kind of winding down. So and plus it's around Christmas, stuff like that. So yeah, that's not, if it's gonna come out this year, I think that's a good date for it. So have to see.
It could be the One Eye Cave, and like I'm gonna buy myself a Christmas present.
Yeah,
Sorry, Clay, how
that
long did you
excuse.
say it was? I was Googling.
So,
and I kind of
so
screwed
for
up.
completionists, for the first Advance Wars, it takes up to 40 hours, but for the main story, it's about 14 hours and 45 minutes.
So for a strategy game, I don't know. That seems like kind of. I guess it's kind of on par. Anyway, it's kind of on par with War Group. So.
It all depends on the player itself, though. If you make a wrong mistake within those strategy games, it can kind of
restart
cost you
a 2-hour level. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then so to kind of close it out here was the slew of Zelda things. First, they said that Clay was worried about Age of Calamity DLC is coming. We've known about this, so this is kind of just reminding. I picked up Age of Calamity, and I've played some amount of it. I'm not finished it yet. There's just no way I'm going to pick up DLC. There's still so much to do in the main game, and it wasn't really that great in the first place. But there you go. That's coming. And then the Zelda Game & Watch, which they've kind of done more of these things lately with these kind of limited run, not full console launches, but these Game & Watch throwback nostalgia trips. And it looks really clean. It looks cool. I don't know what the price tag on something like this is. But it was weird because they kind of alluded to that, you know, they kind of did a big celebration for Mario last year, and that this is like their big celebration for Zelda. And if this is all they have for their 35th anniversary compared to Mario, like this and then Skyward Sword, and then obviously Zelda, like Breath of the Wild is kind of in the cosmos somewhere, but oh my god, that's kind of disappointing. I thought they would have
like an anniversary celebration to me.
I thought they'd have some more remakes, and I think if they
Luigi
do anything,
got a better one a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I didn't think they would announce anything like before Skyward Sword, and this is something that I could see them announcing, and I could see them doing more remakes later on, I guess. But I kind of hope they have a little bit more for their sake. It feels like a bit lackluster compared to what Mario had.
I think what kind of screwed them is maybe they were hoping that Breath of the Wild was going to be this year, and you could all tie it together. It's like we got a few little things. Here's the big thing, because it's not. I feel like they're like, this is the anniversary. Don't worry about it. But like next year, Breath of the Wild, it's coming. Number 2, which they said they're going to keep the title secret for a while. So but.
So for the Game & Watch, I'm seeing here that it's going to be $49.99 USD.
That's a great price.
Yeah, and it's 4 games. So I think this is
a clock too.
It's something that I think I'm actually going to pick up. I haven't played a classic Zelda game in quite some time. So and just like the convenience of how small the Game & Watches are, I think it's just a really good sell. And as far as Breath of the Wild, like I said, I haven't played the first one, but it's a game that everyone just loves. And hey, if you love open world stuff, if you love Ghost of Tsushima, you should definitely buy this game. They were even saying Ghost of Tsushima is basically Breath of the Wild with better graphics. So
those people are wrong. Those people did not use the attack button in Ghost of that game. Comparing combat of those two games is no.
I will say this, and this is for a classic GB me. I think Breath of the Wild is great, and you definitely should play it one day. I recommend everybody. Even seeing this trailer, I was like,
first game you get on your Switch? Absolutely.
Even seeing this trailer, I was like, oh, do I get the second one? I will say, in my opinion, it is, I think, the most overrated game of all time, because it does a lot of things that other games were already doing, but because it's in Zelda, people are like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing. Zelda's doing it. But
I just see a whole lot of people doing some really crazy stuff with the amount of like what you're allowed to do in Breath of the Wild with like the powers and stuff and the equipment that you get. I'm just like, this is no longer a Zelda game. This is just like, hey, how can I speedrun this doing crazy stunts?
Well, and I think that's what people loved about though too. It was such like a change for the franchise. The franchise was pretty by the numbers. Like you knew, I always say like what maybe the last time was like Wind Waker's when it really got changed up. It was like, oh, this is really different for Zelda. So, but I'm with Dylan. Definitely play it. I still thought the game was great. I always get memed on because I just don't think it's like one of the greatest thing all time. But it's their big, like I said before, the same way Dylan says like, oh, he appreciates Last of Us, but it's not really for him. It's like Breath of the Wild, where like I like Breath of the Wild, but I don't know if I'll get this, but I get it because like it became a phenomenon. It's like one of the best reviewed video games, and it's gonna be their big gun for a while, leading with that and talking about that. And you know, it's the art style, the world, it's the new. It was a bit no pun intended, but it was legitimately like a breath of fresh air for Zelda. Like that was like really got back up to main event status. And the stuff they showed was fine. They confirmed, oh, you're gonna be in the skies a little bit. Okay. Like, and I like the darkness. I'm a big fan of Majora's Mask. So that's what was getting me, honestly, like maybe buying this was like, oh, is this the Majora's Mask of Breath of the Wild? Because I love that. But yeah, it's I get why they end with it, and I think people are very excited for that game. So much like Starfield, though, I feel like we didn't see much of it.
No, we didn't. Yeah, I'm definitely opposed to Travis. I guess I'm in between where Travis is and where like the rest of everyone is on the game, because people say it's like the masterpiece and the best game of all time,
Yes.
and there's like no way I can agree with that. Like I think the exploration, it might be the greatest like exploration, honestly, of any game. Like I've played a lot of Elder Scrolls too, and I just think the getting lost in that world and like seeing a place in the distance and chasing it. And you're right, and games have been doing that for years and years and years, like Ubisoft games in general. But there was something about the way Zelda did it, and not just because it had the Zelda name on it, but just the way those systems were, the traversal. Holy shit, just getting lost in that world was the best thing ever. But that game had awful combat, and the dungeons were
Horse
fucking
mechanics.
horrible.
Horse
And
mechanics.
the story was not really
No, it's
existent.
non-existent. The story, yeah, there's nothing there. Yeah,
So yeah, I like it's, and oh my god, the shrines are so bad. Like they really need to, fix that in the sequel. And my biggest question coming into finding more about the sequel was, what is the format? Is it going to be a wholly new world that we're going to explore for the first time all over again, or are they going to take this world that they built up and remix it in some way with the underground sequences, or having the dark world effect? And it's going to be that one with the added sky element to it, where there's these floating islands that you're going between. And yeah, that just doesn't really excite me so much. Like that, the part I loved about it of getting lost, exploring, being just having no idea where I am, running low on resources, finding something in the distance, chasing it. Like, am I going to have that with the sky, going through the sky islands? I don't know if I will. I don't think they can make some changes to the base world, the ground level, but I don't know if it's going to be as satisfying to explore it again. So I guess I need to see a lot more, and I think they should have shown more. Like a minute and a half, whatever it was not really enough for me. And I guess, they showed the hook of what they're doing with it. And I guess I'm just disappointed because I was the person that wanted a wholly new world to explore from scratch. And I don't know why that seems like, to some people, that seems like an unreasonable ask when every other open world game does that. You have a fully new open world to explore every new entry in the series. And if this game's like 4 or 5 years out from the original game, like that's a lot of time to make a new world from scratch. So I don't know, maybe not to that detail or something like that. Like maybe they would have had to make some sacrifices, but at the same time, Majora's Mask thing where it's like, well, you've built the groundwork, now just make a new world. And maybe that wouldn't work story wise. I don't know. You can find a way, and that's what I wanted. And the fact that we're not getting that is a bit of a bummer for me. What else was there in there? I was disappointed to see that Zelda just gets like dropped into abyss and disappears. I was hoping she would be a bigger part of the sequel. Either you get to play as her, or you can switch out, or she's like a companion that you can do combo tricks with. So that was a big bummer for me. There's kind of some time reversal mechanic, which makes sense. They had those like Sheikah Slate abilities in the first game, and you got to add some new ones, and that seems like a prime way to do it. Yeah, and then funnily enough, they had they showed one of the, I think they're called like the talons, like those iron talons or rock stone talons, like those golem enemies, and they had like the thing where there's like a little base built on his back and some moblins up top, some goblins, whatever they're called. And it's funny because there's always been the comparisons to Horizon, but in Horizon
Yeah.
State of Play, they had the same thing with the elephant enemies with the bases on the back. So it's fun. It's gonna be funny to see the comparisons between those games again. Hopefully they don't come out at the same time.
Yeah, and that's what I always say was a big thing for me. They came out at the same time, and Horizon was just pulling me a lot more than Breath of the Wild. So I always say that kind of hurt my thing a little bit about it too. It's always like, oh yeah, this game's fun, but like Horizon's what's pulling me. I still will predict that you're gonna get this day one. I still think the hype's gonna get you, and there's gonna be enough chatter.
I still am at the point just because I love that first game a lot. Like,
and I don't know, I might be getting
problems,
it too.
But it has those problems. But the parts I love about it are so incredibly good
100%.
that they just like I don't even care if the game has like these shitty shrines. I just want like I think that's one of the main things I want is like some actual dungeons. That would be like my main one thing. So if we have this world with these other new areas and then like actual dungeons, then I think I would be happy enough. I don't think it'll reach the heights of the first one for me, but it doesn't need to necessarily. It can still be a great game without that stuff. So I'm still like at the point where I'll probably get it. I'm gonna wait and see some more. And the thing is, for me, it's a big time thing. Like if it is 2022 and that's accurate, and it comes out in that November slot, and it comes out the same week as Starfield, then no, I'm not gonna get it.
Yeah,
I'm getting Starfield instead. So
I was just gonna say the same thing for me. It's like because like you say the whole thing about exploration, you're completely right. Because that's the one thing where I always say the game has the sign of a great game. That when I think about it, I think of specific moments that I had with it, and certain moments of like wow, like breathtaking and stuff. That those type of things that aren't like not moments where this was a story beat that plan that everybody gets, just things that you did or how you discover. Like I always remember the first time I went through a lightning storm. Like it was such a great moment. The
immersive sim elements of the game where everything just interacts in these really creative ways that's also terrifying is it's amazing.
And that's where I am, where it's like when 2 comes out, like I'm more not 50-50, I'm more like a 60-40 in getting it. But I think for me, it's like I do want to get it because one, I actually think me having like lower expectations this time would help because I got it. I think it came out whatever it came out, but I got it about 2 days after because I just heard so many people like masterpiece, same thing, right? So it's like when you get that's where I always feel like I was a little skewed because it's like, yeah, this is great, but like a masterpiece, like I don't know. But that's the thing with the second one. All depends for me is that date, like when it comes out, because it's the same thing of like because that first game I beat things but not completed everything and stuff like that, and that's where it's like if it comes out during Horizon again and whatnot, no, I will choose to wait and maybe get it in the future. But same thing, Starfield, like I'm not even Mr. Bethesda, but that's like a day one for me just out of curiosity and having to play that, and that's where it's like it's gonna be interesting to see, especially I just hope for their sake them and Horizon don't have the same like early Q1 again. So
well, it sounds like Horizon like they're trying to get 2021, but if it doesn't happen, like early 2022, whereas Zelda's like further out. So it seems like they will have some distance, but then the Starfields and other open world games come into play. I don't think, it was so short that I don't think I have much else to add. Story-wise, I don't know if I really have much to comment. Honestly, I didn't think the first game
evil stuff's happening.
Much story to comment on. Here's what I'll say is that Breath of the Wild is on sale right now. There's a little bit of a Steam eShop sale right now.
Huge Steam sale.
I have never seen Breath of the Wild this cheap. It's around 50% off, which for Nintendo first-party games on the Switch is incredibly rare. Like Clay, if you're genuinely going to get a Switch, I don't know if you'll ever see Breath of the Wild this cheap again. I mean, maybe once the second one's out or something, but honestly, now it might be a decent time to pick it up. Not saying you should buy a game for a console you don't own, but just
I've done it before though. I have 100% done it before. I'm pretty sure I did it for Ultimate Alliance 3, and then I was like, oh wait, my brother has a Switch. I'll just play it on that. So I have done it before. 50% off. See, that's another thing that kind of deters me from the Switch at most of the time. The games are so much more expensive than anything else.
Yes, but it does have an amazing selection of indie games that are good prices. So there is a great way to fill up your Switch with lower price games that are amazing. It's just they're not going to have Nintendo in the opening cards when you boot it up.
Sale ends the 21st.
Yeah, it's kind of a E3 sale. Three Houses is also there. Paper Mario, Xenoblade Chronicles, and Pikmin 3 are the game, like the first party games that are all around that 50% off mark. Three Houses, I don't think I've ever seen it on sale, so that's huge. Paper Mario is still somewhat new, so 50% off is huge. Xenoblade Chronicles and Pikmin 3 are less of a big deal since they're older games, but still, if you wanted those games, definitely check those out. And the other one I wanted to shout out was
Kombat 11 is on. Mortal Kombat 11 is on the Switch. It's $50. It's on sale for $15. So yeah, there's some good stuff going on the Switch.
The other one I wanted to shout out was Rabbids is 14 Canadian dollars right now. Mario Rabbids. You will never get a Mario game for $14. Everyone should pick that up. That is an amazing price for that game. I mean, it's a solid game, but that is, I mean, I've seen it at $20 like often, but that is even like a good amount lower than what it usually is. So definitely pick that game up if you saw the trailer for the new one and are wondering about it. $14 is a damn good price for that really solid game. So yeah, any other thoughts on Zelda stuff, or are we kind of wrapping up here?
I'm good to wrap up. I guess give our final scores or whatnot for this bad boy. I'll go first. I'll give it a 4 because I think it's pretty similar. If you were to ask me, I would rank Summer Game Fest ahead of this, but I still think the quality of this was good. Not one of their best showings, but they've definitely had a lot worse ones. So I think it's a 4. For me, the top 3 is Xbox, Summer Game Fest, and then this, and then Square and Ubi are pretty much tied. And then the other stuff this weekend I either didn't watch fully or I didn't get around to watching, but those are pretty much the big head honchos and everything like that. What about you, Clay? What would you give this out of 5 for excitement or hype for a conference or a direct?
I would say because of it being so short, I will put that into account, and them having 2 really big hitters for me, being Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid Dread. I would easily give this a solid 4.
Nice. Yeah, before my number, there's just 2 things I wanted to mention. One is I found it really puzzling that there was no Animal Crossing shown here. That game was fucking huge and is definitely big responsible for why the Switch is still selling better than the PlayStation, better than the Xbox. Obviously, parts are another issue there. But that game was huge last year, and they, had their 1-year anniversary with some Mario stuff, which was fun. I went back and played there, but I found it really odd that the game has been radio silent since then. I felt like this game sold massively. Like, people would pay for DLC. I would probably pay for DLC, and they're not even doing free content stuff in like a game that is kind of supposed to be this game that you're constantly coming to every once in a while. So I don't know if it's because that team has just been pulled off of it, if they didn't expect the sales that it was going to have, and that team's like no longer on it. I don't know what the deal is, but I found it very maybe concerning even that Animal Crossing wasn't shown at all. And then the thing that would have honestly bumped it up like a solid half point or even a full point for me was what I'm really, really waiting for the Switch is Spelunky HD and 2, which are announced, and they're on the eShop. You can wishlist them, and they say come in summer 2021. That's what they're announced for. So I was really, really hoping for those to get announced in here, because if they're going to come out in the next couple months, I think in those sizzle reels when you're saying here's some indie games, say, Spelunky and Spelunky 2 are fucking platformer games, which is what Nintendo is built on. So I think it has room for an audience there. And so I was really, really hoping to see those release dates. And we didn't get them. And maybe, it's probably because Mossmouth doesn't know when it's going to be ready. It's not Nintendo's fault, but that would have been really huge for me as I cannot wait to buy those games for the 100th time.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, I think it needed like that one more big hit for me. That one thing that's like, I'm going to buy this for sure. And, it's weird because like the direct quality, it's hard. Like, I'm complaining about the price of some of these games, but it's like that doesn't really affect the direct quality. That's just more like when I go on later and do some research. So I think I'm going to give it a 3. I want to give it like, I don't want to put it 3.5, but I feel like 3 is too low. So I'm going to say 3.25.
Oh, there you go.
Is where I'm putting this. I'm going to do a bit of a cop out there. Yeah, I think it just needed one more thing for me, and I could have bumped it there if it had that Spelunky, if it had Animal Crossing, I could have bumped it up to that 3.5 cleanly, but without that, and also we talked about some of the issues that the audio had and stuff, but it was all right.
Yeah. Well, there we go. We did it. Another E3 in the books. It was fun to return to it. So as I said before, check out all the content we had done. Clay, thanks for joining us on some of these casts, and Dylan, thanks as always for joining us. Thanks to Taylor as well for being on there, making a bunch of thumbnails and everything like that. So it was a good time. I'm excited to do this again. Hopefully next year it'll be happening. I know next big thing games wise will probably be probably Game Awards, but there'll be a bunch of games in between and sure there'll be reviews here and there. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for tuning in and listening to all this coverage. And we promise when you hear from us next, it'll not be boring.
Bye-bye.
See ya.